Okay, let's start. Aksharat kelim. We're going to speak about kashering kelim for Pesach. Ideally, people should have kelim set aside for Pesach and not get into the confusion of what you're kashering and when you're kashering and how you're kashering. However, not everybody can afford it. Not everybody has a storage place for the kelim of Pesach. And some people have to buy kelim, so there's nothing wrong. There's a whole siman in Shulchan Aruch, siman Tafnun Aleph, Tafnun Bet, sorry. And Shulchan Aruch speaks, Tafnun Aleph, Tafnun Bet, speaks about how you kasher kelim for Pesach. So the principle is, kebol'o kach polto. The same way the keli had absorbed the chametz, that's the same way we're going to extract and take out the chametz from the keli. So it sounds simple. Kebol'o kach polto, that's it. Anybody comes to ask halacha, kebol'o kach polto. The same way you went in, that's the same way you take out. So in principle, there are certain different ways where kelim can absorb. Now, you probably think it's something a little bit far-fetched, this whole concept of a keli absorbing and then bringing out taste. You should know it's not like that. Kelim have a nature to absorb. You can take it to a lab and break it up and they'll tell you, this is a second-hand one and this is a not second-hand. Whether the bliya with what absorbs is a lot, it's a different discussion. It's not for us to start making rules. This keli is very smooth. That keli is very thin. So therefore, probably there'll be 60 always in the food which you'll cook in it. That keli is like that. We don't do any of that business. Because we're not sure. We don't know. We can't be sure about how much is absorbed. So yes, you can argue that in the olden days they used to cook with thick earthenware and used to absorb a lot and presumably you'd have the flavor and taste. I'll be honest with you, I've tried it once. I took a pot because my urn wasn't working. I took a pot, which I usually cook meat in it, and I put water in it for Shabbat and I left it on the hot plate, like a good frum Jew. And I came to have my coffee in Shabbat morning. And I'll be honest with you, the water wasn't the normal water I was used to. There was something which, first of all, it didn't look right. You're going to tell me I put back to the cupboard dirty pots? No, it's not like that. Definitely there's some flavor which you wouldn't have if you'd boil your water in a kettle or an urn. There's certainly bliot. Now you'll tell me about 24 hours have passed. So never mind. The Gemara in Masechet Avodah Zarah says, Gazru eno ben yomo, atu ben yomo. Chachamim never allowed us, rabbinically, to use a pot which 24 hours have passed, lechatchila, in first instance. Why? Because there's room for confusion. If you get accustomed to say, 24 hours have passed, you might come to use it within the 24 hours. And that's a difference between asur and mutar. And therefore, Chachamim made a blanket rule. Any keli which has absorbed isur has to be kashered even if 24 hours have passed. Even if it's not in tam nifgam. Generally, on Pesach, if by mistake someone took a pot and cooked, that's a discussion whether not in tam nifgam, whether if 24 hours, whether it makes the food asur. B'di'avad on Pesach, because on Pesach, some say chametz b'Pesach is b'mashu, even the minimal, even in something which doesn't give a pleasant flavor. Shulchan Aruch held noten ta'am livgam is mutar. The Rama said noten ta'am livgam on Pesach is asur, on Pesach. Before Pesach, obviously we'll allow it. Yeah, b'di'avad, if someone cooked by mistake, in a pot which is a chametz pot and it was clean, then b'di'avad it's mutar. Okay? Now, so therefore, when we come to use any kelim on Pesach, we have to first get clear how that keli was used. Right? Whether it was used without any intermediate of liquid, whether there was an intermediate of liquid, whether it was in keli shani or irui keli rishon. There's different levels of absorbing which require different levels of kashering. Yes, you can comfortably say, I'll go for the higher level always. And yes, that'll be ideal. If you'll do that, that'll be brilliant. Tavala bracha. Any kelim, I do it libun. Well, you're not going to start burning all your utensils. Or any kelim, I'll do agala. Some don't need agala. Some irui, just pouring boiling water is sufficient. So we'll discuss these things as we go along to try and understand. As long as we know in principle how the chametz went in, we will be able to rule on it, how to get the chametz out of it. Okay? So now, first thing is, make sure that kelim which are not for Pesach are placed in a cupboard and well marked. Because unfortunately, there are members of the household who don't think twice before opening cupboards. You have to mark these kelim or Pesach kelim. We don't sell kelim unless we have a worry that the kelim cannot be cleaned from its chametz. But a clean pot, a perfectly clean pot, like most our utensils today, we don't generally put back into our cupboards in the kitchen unless they're clean. Spotless, I'd say. They're clean. And therefore, there's no room to sell kelim on the contract of the mechilat chametz. Let's not be ridiculous. You don't have to. The only kelim which you do have to, and historically probably was more of a problem, you had this earthenware where sometimes food got stuck and they used to recook on it. There was such a thing. And the forms of cleaning were different. The kelim. So therefore those which have a chashash of chametz davuk, chametz stuck to the keli. Now there are appliances in the house which I can tell you, sometimes you can get a shi'ur kazait in that appliance of chametz. You know, there's a big machloket, an argument in halacha between the Rishonim as to how much a kazait is. Some say kazait is 6 dirham, which is about 18 grams. Some saying if you translate it to weight. You should know, whenever we spoke about kazait, we speak about the volume of a kazait. Unfortunately, we're not such experts to be able to assess volume in a good way. And therefore the Rambam in Pirush HaMishnayot did us a kind favor. And he translated the kazait into a weight which is called dirham. Approximately a dirham is about 3 grams. He took chita mitzrit, the Rambam, wheat from Egypt. He ground it, he put it into the volume of a kazait, and that's the weight he got. Is the kazait always reliable to make that measurement? We better rely on it. We don't know how to measure kazait. This is relevant to the halachot of Leila Seder, but I'm just saying, some say it's 6 dirham, some say it's 9 dirham. We take on la halacha, kazait is 27 grams. But la chumra, Pesach, will be machmir. If you take your toaster, without cleaning it, you know the toaster has a plate at the bottom which you take out. Sometimes the more you knock it, the more crumbs come out. The more you knock it, the more crumbs you have. If you put those crumbs together, I'm not so sure there won't be a kazait. So yeah, for these kind of appliances, if you're not going to clean them well, then you sell it with the mechirat chametz, you include it, and obviously you say you're not selling the actual toaster, because then you'll require tvilah, according to many poskim. The cheese toaster, the kenwood. Kenwood is also an appliance which the flour and the chametz gets everywhere. I don't know, I'm talking about the old kenwoods, which I have. You open it up and it's like a beta kvarot of dough.
Is that in the wording of the contract where you have to specify
it? In the wording of the contract, we say chametz stuck to the utensil. We specify. Now you're asking me, why would a goy in the world buy this? Was interest. Now he's not only buying that. He's buying a package deal. And in the package deal, he's getting also chametz, which is davuk. I know he wouldn't come just for the dough stuck to the pot or to the chametz stuck to the pot. That's not be ridiculous. You have to be a fool to buy such a thing. But when you're buying expensive whiskeys and you're buying other things, in the contract here, we specify there's a separate contract. That's why it's not specified here what kind of chametz you're selling. Because we don't require in the contract which you give to specify the chametz.
You don't have to detail it.
We detail it when we sell it to the goy.
We don't have to write anything.
You don't need to, because when we got a different contract with where we go the shtar, and there we give all the examples of the different kinds of chametz which possibly we can sell. If you've got any new ideas of chametz which is not in the contract, please let me know. So that's in regards of kelim which might have contents of chametz. Those have to be sold at the mechilat chametz. Yeah, but other kelim do not need to be sold in the mechilat chametz, but need to be put away and well marked. The people shouldn't confuse on Pesach and use any of these kelim which are chametz kelim. Now, before we come to kasher any keli, yeah, let's first be clear that the keli has to be absolutely clean. It has to be clean. You have to clean it really well. And sometimes if there's rust or there's things which we are worried maybe the agala won't do it properly, then there's room to use a burner as well to burn those areas. But I don't think today we deal with rusty kelim. If any keli gets a little bit rusty today, first of all, the standards of the utensils today are so good, they don't become generally rusty. But if they do, we straight away change them. So we haven't got that concern. But you sometimes might have it in an oven tray, sometimes you might have it in different kelim. Kelim shonim, like it says in the Megillah. Some used to read the kelim shonim, they read in the tune of Echa. Why? Because it's to remember that they used the kelim of the Beit HaMikdash. Achashverosh. Amen. Yeah. So now, according to the Shulchan Aruch, we go by the majority of the use of the keli. That means, Shulchan Aruch simply means, even though sometimes you may have used the keli in a more problematic way, but because majority of time, and generally you use it in a certain way, that's the way, according to the Shulchan Aruch, you have to kasher it. It's not stringent to say, oh, because you know you've used it, it's not. However, the Ramosha Israelish holds that the hechsher should do according to the hottest way you used it. That's the Ashkenazi who follow the Ramah. Okay? Now, even they hold that in Shat Adchak, when you're in, I'll call it pressurized time, and you can't do the Achshara according to the minority of times you used it, you can also be lenient and go after the majority of use. Yeah. Now, in order to be in a comfortable position, I think it's a general practice, even amongst the Sfaradim, to go by what you might have used it with. To be safe, on the safe side. Sometimes, most times, it's not such hard effort. So therefore, it's better to cover that. But Ikar Din is, you go after the majority of its use. There'll be certain appliances which we'll come and discuss, which you can't really do according to what the one-off use. Therefore, we will be go according to the Ikar Din of the Shulchan Aruch. Okay?
If it's Kabbalah Kachbal Tov, then even if you've done it once, why should that not require you?
Yeah, but it's Kabbalah Kachbal Tov, Rov Tashmisha, of the majority of its use.
Why not as a one-off?
Remember, it's not Ben Yomah. And you have to remember, if you majority of time you don't use it, that's the way the Achshara of Kelim. If you Rov Tashmisha. Someone actually say, if you actually know and you use it within 24 hours on that, then you're right. You have to go back to the Tashmish. You're absolutely right. What we're talking about, if you wait, yeah? Now, let's try and understand. There are many kelim which, in the household, which require the highest level kashering, which is libun. Now, when we talk about libun, according to the Shulchan Aruch, you need, when something is used with no intermediate of a liquid, and we talk about libun, you generally need to do libun sheyeh nitzotzot nitazin. You need to have sparks coming out from your burner when you're burning that. I'm afraid to say that a lot of kelim in our kitchen, you'll do that. You won't be able to use them again. Or maybe the coating will come off. Maybe it'll become rusty. I don't know. You have to see. So that's libun ad shiur nitzatim. Even though there's a machloket where the chametz is hetera bala or isura bala, but we go by that it needs to have nitzotzot nitazim mimena.
Why
Yeah.
does it require the same temperature that it went in, that it comes out?
No.
Why does it have to have this
It's,
added temperature?
yeah, but the heat of the fire has to actually hit the place where it got absorbed.
So put it in the
And
oven
how
at the
much
same
heat
time.
to extract it needs, you can't say heat generally in the oven will create kebolo kach polto.
If it gets to X in the oven, why don't you put it X to take it out?
You're right. You're right.
Why
It
do you
should
need-
be
why
like
do you need-
that.
Why do you need to be
But
below?
I don't know how the X, you have to understand, when you got food hitting the surface of something, and the food gets very hot, and it's touching the action, so the absorption is great. It's up to heat which is very, very hot. Not necessarily the air of the oven will be kovea here. So therefore,
It's not going to get grated in the oven, is it?
to get the bliot out, you will need to do libun. And the halachot of libun is required shiur nitzotzot nitazim. Even though you may be sure that the oven doesn't get to more than a 250 temperature, but you still need a fire hitting the actual material. Because if not, it will not extract the chametz. Just putting it into under hot heat like that, apparently, seems to be according to Shulchan Aruch, it will not work. You need to have proper libun. Mr. Shulchan Aruch never differentiated between where the fire actually hits to where the fire doesn't hit. Understand? It said, if this swallowed without an intermediate of a liquid, it requires libun she'en nitzosot nitazin. What's the level of libun I require to extract this? It's like saying, I usually cook and I know what temperature I got to yatzolet. I'm going to do agala. Agala has to be until there's bubbles in the water and it's boiling. Yes, I could go by the temperature which I normally use there, but it's clearly shown and clearly shown. It seems to be, it's like a general rule, which, because it's very hard to start going, I go by temperature and go the same temperature. Who says the temperature hit to take out the
Just
chametz?
gave a catch-all.
Huh? That's, I guess to take out is also a harder job than
Can I ask
the
a question?
absorbing. Yeah.
Nowadays, there are these ovens.
I'm getting to the oven.
The self-cleaning.
I'm getting to the oven. I'm getting to the oven. I'm going to speak about the oven. Okay? In the oven, we actually rely on what you're saying now, on the paralytic ovens.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because it goes to double the amount of temperature the oven usually is used. So that's already like nitzotzot nitazim. Right? Even though you don't actually see nitzotzot nitazim. It's an interesting, you should know, it's not such a smooth thing. We've taken on la halacha to rely on this leniency, right? Some argue and say even in paralytics, no nitzotzot, no sparks coming out when you do a paralytic oven. But we take on that since it goes to double its temperature, it's so hot, everything inside becomes ashes. Even though we don't see any sparks coming out, that would be sufficient to take out the bliya, which was less. It was less than that. I did it last night. It's mamash. Like you wipe it, you get black. This after cleaning and cleaning, it's like ashes. Everything becomes ashes. And once I turned it on, it was sparks inside the oven. It started sparks.
Smoking.
Yeah, because during the year, if you don't clean the oven well and you've got fats there, it starts burning. It's safe. It's safe. Let's go on. Nothing unsafe. So that's libun. Now generally we'll require to take a burner and wait and go slowly on the areas which you want to kasha
What, sorry?
of the oven.
Oh, you're doing the oven now?
If you clean the
Oh,
oven,
you can get
or you
like
get
a,
something which you want to
what-
extract, a tray of an
you can
oven.
get a blowtorch in the oven.
A blowtorch, yeah.
It won't damage you or anything. You
Well,
can-
I don't know. The truth is, I didn't deal so much with
no,
domestic
try
ones.
some.
But yeah, even domestic ones, you can do a blowtorch,
okay.
yeah.
Can you write that? No.
That's why it's not advisable. Now, let's be realistic. We're going to talk now about kashering of the ovens, right? Trays of the oven, ovens.
Just with the pot, back to the pots. So if you want to do libun, you have to do it on every area of the pot that you basically going to use.
Yeah. On the whole pot.
Yeah, you have to cover.
It's half the pot.
No, when you get sparks, you have to get it so that sparks are kind of coming out from around everywhere in the pot.
Hmm?
Not just like the bottom of the pot. You have to get sparks to come out from
Yeah.
everywhere within the
Yeah,
pot.
yeah.
Inside and outside?
Inside and outside, yeah.
Why can't you, if it's just used on the hob with liquid, why don't you just clean it and put it in the dishwasher? It gets so hot in there and there's water everywhere. Why can't you just do that?
First of all, I disagree with you.
It doesn't get
It's
hot.
not the boiling
No,
temperature which you need for
it's steam
agala.
coming out.
Secondly,
It's
in
dangerous.
agala, you have to immerse it inside properly. And you're not having that in the dishwasher. The dishwasher cleans it externally very well,
Still
but
very
it doesn't get bliot out. If I know the dishwasher fills to maximum capacity with water and then it draws, then perhaps we'll consider it like agala.
it has to be submerged.
Yeah. Secondly, I would consider that irui. Do you know how a dishwasher works?
You press the button.
Correct. That's the problem, because you only know you press a button. But if you'd go once into the dishwasher and see, and close behind you, and turn it on, you will notice that the water is like a sprinkler with boiling water. That's considered irui. That's not hagala. So it'll be good for kelim which need irui, possibly. I'm not allowing that for irui, but I'm saying it'll be irui. So dishwasher is not. Let's see, now you want to know how to catch a dishwasher first. Right. Let's talk about the oven. Let's talk about the hot plate. Let's talk about things which require libun. Hob.
Gas.
Gas. That's even more lenient. So let's differentiate. There are kelim which we use with fire, but we never place food on it. Never ever place food on it. The hob. What do we do with the hob? You've got gas hobs, or if it's electric hobs. So wherever the fire is, and it's constantly burning whilst you cook, I have no problem with that. I don't place food on top of that. So I'm burning. So wherever the fire hits, will burn anything which gone into it also. That's libun. That's libun hamur. Where the actual,
Upstairs.
the stand of the hob, yeah, where the pot actually sits on it, there's fire constantly. Becomes red hot there. So that's not a problem. The problem is around it. The problem around it gets hot. And sometimes you have food spilling. So really you can argue and say, once I've cleaned it well, since I'm not using it to place food on top of the hobs directly, I shouldn't have to kasher it. Because I will always be using it through a pot. I never put liquids on the hobs. So how do I kasher a hob? Why do I need to kasher it? The answer is that food spills on Pesach. So there's two things. If there's an overspillage of a pot onto a hob, to a place where there's no fire, then, and the pot gets moved on top of that, and you've got a liquid in between, it will extract from the hob, and it will penetrate to that. Now, the chances of that happening in the electric ones, it's more, in the flat ones, it's more of a possibility. On the ones which have stands, then obviously you're not going to hit it. You're going to stand parts of the stands where you didn't kasher. So what we advise, another thing is, when food spills and you're cooking a potato, you're cooking potatoes, boiling potatoes, and a potato falls on the hob, then lechora it fell onto a hob which wasn't kashered. So that's our concern. You take it and put it back onto the pot. So we're not going to kasher the actual hob. Yeah? Maximum you can do to it is do irui to it. You can pour boiling water, because generally rov tashmisha of that area, the majority of use of the area of the hob is usually through something spilling on it, which is irui from kli rishon. So lechora, it will be sufficient to pour boiling water in those areas just in case something might fall on Pesach. You don't want to do that, cover it. You cover your hobs. So what must you do is like that. You take a pot and you, with a bit of water in it obviously, you put it on the fire, you turn it on and let the fire spread. Keep it for about 10, 20 minutes. until it burns the area where you're going to be placing pots. The wider the pot, the better. The more area the fire will spread and do libun to that area. The area which is not, we have a custom to cover it, right? In order to kasher it, didn't kasher it well, absorbed without any liquid intermediate, what's going to be, how? Meikaradin really don't need to, because majority of its use would be sufficient just to pour boiling water on the hobs where the fire doesn't hit it. However, the custom is to cover that area just in case things fall, and we want to be on the safe side. But meikaradin, you don't need to. Some people even take chicken wire and put on top of the cooker. So therefore you end up not putting the pots never directly on the actual teeth. So even if there'll be a spillage, there'll be a connection of water, it won't absorb from anything because there's something in between your pot and the actual teeth of the hob.
So you're saying foil or chicken wire, you don't put
If you're doing chicken wire, just clean properly and you place the chicken wire on top.
foil?
You don't need to put foil.
If
If
you
you-
foil the hole, you put foil over the hole.
If you put foil over the hob, you don't really need the chicken wire. I would cover the corners of the hobs where the fire doesn't reach there.
You do it as well.
If you do it with the fire and you burn it, then you're fine. You don't need to cover it.
But what's the
Okay.
concern with spillage? So,
No, if there'll be actual spillage from this pot, and let's say you've got a low fire, and you've got water, you see, if you put two pots next to each other, one of meat and one of milk, next to each other, they will not transmit what's inside it to each other, unless there'll be a mashke in between. If there'll be a liquid in between, then it can transmit. I mean, and Kelly, no Kelly passes to another Kelly unless there's a liquid to extract from one and bring into the other
no,
one.
you're saying the hob.
The liquid is the shadchan. So therefore, if I will have a spillage of food or a liquid coming out, then what happens is the pot is sitting on liquid on top of an area which you didn't kasher, and it will extract. You're right, it's not ben yomo. We haven't got much of a
Yeah, but
problem
you
on
just
that.
wipe it up on the tissue and put it in the bin. So, what's
Hmm?
the concern? It goes outside on the hob. You're not going to use that
No.
spillage.
It's not about using, it's about extracting and going into the pot.
Can you go into the pot?
Yeah.
How's it get into the pot?
I'll give you an example. If I take a hot pot and I've got another pot with liquid in it, and I put it inside it, one milk, one meat.
Put one pot in the other.
I've got a pot of milk
Yeah.
and I've got a meaty pot with a liquid, and I put the pot inside it. It's boiling.
Yeah.
What will the halacha be?
It gets absorbed. Yeah.
So the liquid absorbs from the bottom pot of the meat, and there isn't 60, and that goes into the pot of the milk, and you need 60 in the milk against. That means when you've got two metals or two kelim touching each other, and there's a liquid in between, they pass on to each other according to halacha of Isur V'Eter.
I see.
So it's a far-fetched problem because
you're saying if
all
there's
your
two
hob
pots-
is not ben yomo.
So it's through the walls of the pot.
Yeah.
Permeates.
Yeah.
So that spillage
So
might,
that
might
you're right.
conduct
It's
to another pot.
it's really not ben yomo. 24 hours you haven't used it, and now like I said, chametz fell on it. And but to be on the safe side, that's what we do. We cover those areas which you don't kasher, unless if you pour boiling water on the whole thing, then you give me some level of kashering that you won't need
You
to
can do it in the
do.
kettle as well.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the. And also the worry of something falling off the pot and you picking it up and reusing it. If you use a chicken wire, you haven't got a problem with that.
Like a dry.
Yeah, something dry, something
Like a
which,
potato.
like a potato or like an egg or like something.
You know the foil paper you used to cover it?
The thick one.
Does that have to be kosher at Pesach?
No,
No.
no.
That's just a marketing thing.
ממש. מאושר לפסח, which was written on the foils. They used to have a worry about animal fats,
Yeah.
which I don't know what they put in foil paper, but chametz on foil paper, there was never a worry of chametz. Yeah, I think they're all gluten safe, all the foil paper. It's a marketing thing. It's presumably more for the Isurim part of it, not the Pesach one. But paper plates is something else. So paper towels, which you put hot schnitzels on it and all that, that's a different discussion, which I think today most of them are also not used, but we tend to look for serviettes. If
You
you're
have to
gonna
get these cups for Pesach?
these, you can get Maushar Pesach.
You have to.
Look,
I don't want to spend. I don't have
do you
to.
know the manufacturing process of these things?
No
Do you know whether wheat starch or is used for paper?
No.
So let me tell you, they do use it. It is used. Now you can argue that it's not an edible ingredient in it. I'm not so sure. It's up to you to decide that. It's up to you to do your research. So therefore, we tend to be on the safe side and get the ones which are maushar. But generally, I wouldn't be worried because it's not used from wheat. They use other sources, corn and all these things to make this harden the paper or whatever they need to starch. Yeah, for the serviettes are. But generally, since you can get today, you can get Kadassia or you can get London bedding serviettes for your schnitzels to absorb the oil when they're hot, use those. Your hot cups, when you use hot, use it. Don't use hot, no problem. Use any paper plates you want. Okay? I didn't get the time to do the research enough to know whether there's any concern in the paper plates in England in general. Yeah? Even they can be imported from different places, but each country has this. Now, a hot plate, before we start about the oven, a hot plate, if you warm chametz directly on a hot plate, and I can tell you that there are people who directly warm the halot on the hot plate, those hot plates require libun. If you never warm halot on the hot plate, and you always use a pot, and you never put chametz directly on the hot plate, then it will be sufficient to clean it properly and pour boiling water on it.
Can you cover it?
Irui.
If you only have foil, that's not enough really. It's very close.
Oh, it's
Wait. Wait. Are you talking about the chametz you put with the foil?
During the year.
During the year, yeah. No, if you use it with foil in between or with paper, what's the paper called? Have a baking paper. If you use any intermediate in between the chametz and the actual hot plate, it will also be sufficient to do it, even though it's thin, because it's enough.
So if any food ever fell on the hot plate directly on, you're saying you had to do it.
But you don't generally use it. If it fell, it fell. So therefore,
Yes.
just clean it and do irui to it.
Okay.
If you put it without an intermediate of paper, and I've seen people doing that, you put directly pita or something or challah to warm directly on it, then it needs libun chamur, the highest level libun. And you're not going to do libun to your hot plate because it's going to ruin it probably. It's got a special coating that if you burn it with a fire until it becomes red hot, then what will happen? It'll get spoiled. Clean it properly, get rid of any residue, and put it thick foil like he mentioned, the thick foil, the Pesach foil. Be careful for your fingers, shouldn't get cut, do it carefully. And just cover the hot plate with that. You can use sellotape at the bottom, nothing happens to the hot plate. It doesn't melt. It doesn't melt. It doesn't melt. A bit of sellotape at the bottom just to hold it together. They shouldn't come up.
So thick it stays in place anyway.
Not so sure. However thick it is, it comes off. All right. So you're good. If it stays in place, stays in place. Very good. Eh?
Even if you do put
Yes. Well, once you have the foil cover on it, the thick foil, I haven't got a
is
problem.
that just a blanket?
I won't let you use it with thin foil for the matzah because, like you said, it might tear, it might this. But if it was used with thin foil for chametz, then I can rely on the irui.
So is that a blanket rule? If I just cover my whole house in silver foil, then I'm good to go for the mice, no?
It'll be a bit expensive. Foil is expensive, I must tell you.
That would be the rule, no?
If you'll cover your whole house,
Let's say I'm
you
saying
cover.
that, but everything in the mice-
For instance, an oven, you're not going to be able to do that. We'll soon talk about an oven.
Alright.
Now, that's a hot plate. Quite straightforward. Yeah. Be careful with the glass hot plates. My advice is the glass hot plates. Don't totally cover it and sellotape it the way I told you because eventually one year it exploded. Nothing happened. It just went. No. When I say explosion, I don't mean the explosion of the missiles of the Iranians last night. I mean to say that it cracked, the whole glass cracked to little pieces, meaning it stays intact because it's safety glass. So it's just the actual appliance. Salam shalom. Okay, but this happened after years I did it. Kanile, it's got a pagatokif, the expiry date the hot plate has. That's the glass one. The metal one shouldn't be a problem covering it with foil. Okay, so that's the hot plate. Now let's go into the oven. The oven is more complicated because if you don't have a paralytic oven, which goes into very high temperature, and then before you do that, make sure you clean the oven properly, because there is on the door of the oven a lot of crumbs. And we don't want crumbs to fall into the oven on Pesach. And we don't want crumbs to come out once you're taking things out of the oven. So the door has to be cleaned properly. After you clean the whole oven properly, then you will turn on the paralytic oven. Now, apparently, people ask me about the trays, the rails. The rails can be kashered as well. Okay? You leave them inside. You lose the silverness of the thing. It'll become a little bit rusty. Mine has become a little bit colored, maybe it's after years. And apparently, it will not go on unless you take the sides, the shelf holders, out. Mine won't go on. Some of them don't go on unless you take the sides off, because they want you to take them off, take them remove for safety. It shouldn't get spoiled. So you take them out and leave them inside and turn on the paralytic oven. And so I advise people, if you're thinking of changing your oven, once and for all, change it to such a kind of oven. You get a lot of nachat. It's a pleasure. 2-hour cycle cleans the oven. Mamash la mehadrin. Kuntu as la mehadrin. Yeah? There are people who don't agree, but that's what we hold. Now, ovens which you can't do like that. Let me explain to you what the problems with the oven is. An oven is very hard to clean. Also, when you cook with open food, there's ze'ata mashkin, ze'ata ochel. The ze'ah of the chametz goes up and gets absorbed into the roof of the oven. And when you cook openly in the oven on Pesach, it'll end up taking the bliot, whatever got absorbed comes back onto your food. Again, you tell me it's not 24 hours apart. Again, not in time lifgam, it's an argument. Lechatchila, according to everybody, you don't rely on not in time lifgam. You don't say 24 hours have passed. You still can't use it. So therefore, kashering an oven which is not paralytic, which you have to do the process, let me explain to you how you do it. You clean the oven properly. There's a spray called St. Moritz, which comes from Israel. It's sold in the kosher stores. It's a very strong spray. And use the right equipment to protect your skin, because otherwise it can damage you. But use your common sense. Whenever you use any cleaning up materials, you read the instructions before you use it. So this, you spray it, you close the oven, leave it for a few minutes, you'll see how all the fats just melt away. Need be, scrub it a little bit, clean the oven professionally. I say professionally, not to call professionals, you do it professionally. Clean it properly. After you've cleaned it properly, you're going to turn the oven on with everything inside on the highest setting for at least an hour after it gets to the highest temperature. It's not libun. It's not good libun according to Shulchan Aruch, because you need redness, you need fire to take out. So we're not doing the best libun we could. So what are we going to do in order to protect ourselves? So first thing is, the actual trays of the oven, we're never going to place food directly on them. We're going to cover them, foil them for Pesach. Then we will place our kelim on top of it. I advise that this is the way to avoid any issue is, you take another one of these trays, foil it, these grills, no they're called, and put it on your top shelf above the food.
It's disposable. If you foil it, it'll flap.
You think
Whereas-
they foil it
whereas
properly?
if you get a disposable tray, that won't flap about. That'll stay
And it
still.
fit perfectly?
You can get the right size. and
Okay,
it'll
so it's a
fit.
technical issue
It's
here,
much
yeah.
easier.
So
Otherwise,
he's suggesting
you have
here,
the flapping about.
he's suggesting that we should take the disposable foils,
The shallow one.
which
the
are
shallow
thick, And just shelf it on as close as you could to the ceiling of the oven. And then you won't have a problem of cooking even with no cover on the food which you're cooking on Pesach. Otherwise, always cover the food after the kashering, which I told you. You cannot use it without covering. And I don't rely on it because people don't like cooking in an oven. The whole idea of an oven is to get the effect of the heat all around it, and you wanted to leave it exposed. And therefore, and sometimes you put foil, it comes off, comes on, you forget. So now I keep it on the safe side. I take this tray, very simple, put it on the top, and you can cook underneath it exposed. I'm not concerned about the walls of the oven after I've cleaned them and done the process, because the walls are not directly above what I'm cooking, and therefore the chashash of chametz going in the bliot or any ze'ah bringing down is not from the sides as much as from the top.
So I need to clean it at all then.
Why need to clean the oven? Because if you have residue, you'll be cooking chametz with kasher lePesach. You see, the problem is with the residue, I don't rely on that. I don't rely. The sides, this. If you've got fats on the side of the oven, the fats, I don't know if the pagum is be'en. I don't know how clean you keep the oven. First thing is, before I do any kashering process, I'll clean the oven the maximum I could.
Like the glass door.
Yeah, in a safe way. Now, the glass door, I'm not concerned either. I'm not putting food on the glass. So I'm not worried. So what are you worried about? Bliot coming from the glass onto the food which you're cooking? I'm not worried. It's at the side, and the glass being on the top, it would be a different question. But because it's not, I've got a problem. You're talking about the glass door.
No.
I have seen that some questions.
What
Then
if
foil
it's a
is my
brand
brother.
new one?
Sorry?
What if you haven't used on Pesach before and it's brand new?
What happens if you
You have
haven't?
it in the year, you've had this in the year and it's a new door. Do you need to kosher it for Pesach?
No, you don't need to cash. It's a new door. Change your door of the oven. You're in a good
Just
way.
leave the inside.
That's the best. If you can change the oven, even better. It's also practical to change the door.
No, but if it's been
If
smashed,
you also just use
Yeah,
the,
then fine. You
If you just-
don't have to worry about cleaning the
just
glass.
clean the inside.
Yeah, correct.
if we use the oven, even like a microwave as well, then we just use it like it's a non-kosher oven, like we do during the rest of the year, and you cover it up twice and all that. Like
No.
in the airplane.
You're right. Covering twice. What's the covering twice? Anybody knows why we cover twice in the aeroplane? Everybody knows about covering twice. That's the theory which we said before. Even if you've got residue in the oven,
Yeah.
even if you've got residue, if it hits the top cover of your food, it will never transmit it to the bottom cover without a liquid in between. That's a principle we said before. So that's why when you don't kosher something, on a plane for instance, all the kosher meals, the mehadrin meals come in on a double wrapper. Why? Because they don't clean the ovens. The ovens are dirty. And therefore, since they don't clean the ovens, we require a double wrapper. But that's in extreme circumstances. We don't lechatchila. You're on a plane between heaven and earth. Don't care, rely on double cover, even for trefot. But when it comes to lechatchila, we don't tell a person, oh, use your oven like all year round, just cover it twice. First of all, you tell a person to cook with a double cover, you may as well not bother. It's not practical. If you're rewarming, like in the aeroplane, with a double cover, I can understand. Or with double cover in a microwave, you're reheating. But to cook, you need to know on your nosy. You only want to know, is it cooked, is it not cooked? You open it, you don't close it. We don't want to allow this double cover. It's in extreme circumstances we'll double cover something. Okay? So therefore, the double cover is allowed. The trays, we're not kashering properly. We're just leaving them in the oven. So therefore, don't put food directly on the trays. And best is to cover the trays with foil. It's not a big deal. And therefore, you don't have to worry about putting bread to cover, matzah to warm or something directly on it. So that's as far as the ovens are concerned. Now, someone raised an issue of an urn. Sometimes there's flat urns. Only today I was asked this question. They place bread to warm on the urn with nothing in between. Well, don't do that year round. Schnitzels, this. Don't do it. A schnitzel will possibly make your whole urn meaty. Unless there's 60 in the water against the schnitzel. Do you know that? Kuntu halacha. You've got an urn, flat urn, you put a schnitzel directly on top of the lid, and you go water now, steaming up until the lid.
You won't put it direct.
So the halacha is, you need 60 against the schnitzel. You don't know how much the schnitzel was about, so you take the mishayim like that, and then you need a water. When you put chametz directly on top, so now we've got a double problem. Shouldn't we need libun? It's dry. It's absorbing not through an intermediate of liquid. So the answer is agala is enough here. Why? For the lid. You have to first kasher the urn, overboil it, possibly boil it to the maximum because we know you've put chametz on top. Put a stone in it to get it to overspill, a hot stone, and then put some boiling water on the spout. Because of irui, we worried maybe you poured hot water into, I don't know, why would you do porridge from an urn? Or maybe you took this, there's this drink which some people drink as a substitute to coffee. It's called barley. Barley
water.
Yeah, and it's powder, but it's barley. And people drink it as a substitute to coffee. People who don't like caffeine.
Oh, I think the barley water's in Robinson's.
No, you buy a barley drink. Huh?
Horlicks and things like that.
I use it. You don't only drink caffeine. And that's chametz. And you're pouring irui. And therefore the steam, if it's so close to this, if you don't use keli sheni, then, which you possibly don't need to do because it's already gone through a process of cooking, you got steam coming up. So therefore, so hard to take a kettle and pour some boiling water on top of the spout. What do you do with the lid? What?
Agala or libun?
No.
The lid.
The lid, you do agala.
Agala.
Don't need to do libun. Why? Because we want to kasher it for the use of kebolo kachpolto. It absorbed through a liquid, through the steam going up, and the steam will bring it down onto the food. And therefore, hagala here will be sufficient. Put the lid into the boiling water, and you've kashered it, you can use it. Okay, that's all talking about an urn which you used with chametz. But if you didn't use chametz, for instance, those plastic ones which are narrow at the top, or any other urn which you don't place chametz on it, you never placed chametz, we don't remember you placed chametz on it, Rav Tashmisho again, we can presume you didn't, then just clean the urn properly, pour some boiling water on the schnozzle, on the spout, and that's it. You can use the urn for. Same will apply to a kettle. Kettle also you can kasher. We all worry about chametz which hit the sides. How often does it hit the sides? If anything, it's a spout which you pour onto chametz, onto porridge, onto anything which you boil, right? Otherwise, there's no problem. That's how you kasher a kettle too.
Microwave?
Microwave, we are not gonna be able to give it a proper kashering process because when you put exposed chametz, let's take the example of porridge. Yeah, oats, you cook on the microwave. I didn't take bread because there's yavesh and you tell me there's no steam. And I'm not going with that. You heat porridge with no cover, or no with the proper cover. The steam goes up to the ceiling of the oven, of the microwave. The steam absorbs. You need to kasher it. So I'll tell you, take another bowl with liquid and do the same process to get it out. Did the steam hit everywhere in the oven, in the microwave? Did it not? It's not a proper agala process. So do it, clean it properly. Don't put food on the actual glass. And, which we don't do anyway, I don't think people put directly food there. Clean the microwave properly, put a bowl of water. Someone suggested put soapy water. The last time I put soapy water in the microwave, it bubbled away. I had to turn off the microwave quickly before it goes into the holes. They have to be careful. There's certain holes where more liquid can get in. Boil it for a long time, let it evaporate significantly. And wipe the microwave after that. Still, when you put food to warm on Pesach, get a special lid or cover and keep your food covered on the microwave. Because you're not really kashering in the proper process of agala. So
this will help you to only have to cover it once versus
yes, only once you have to cover
You
it.
can wrap the plate and cling film, is that okay? The glass pot, the dish, the plate, the microwave.
Yeah,
The turntable.
yeah.
Wrap it with cling
Yeah,
film.
technically you could. Because it's not going to melt.
No,
No,
people put something direct onto the plate.
Yeah, I'm saying it's not going to melt. The microwave doesn't heat plastic. Doesn't heat something which has no liquid.
No.
It's a genius idea, microwave. Okay,
The cover, sorry, of a microwave, the regular cover with holes in it, that would be good enough.
what for Pesach? After you've done the kashering, which we said,
Yeah.
it'll be good enough. Get a Pesach one.
It's got holes.
Okay, it'll be good enough.
It's got holes.
Yeah, the holes are minimal. The holes are minimal. The holes of the microwave cover are minimal. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. Let me explain. Since you've done that initial kashering, which we tried to with the steam, now it's clean. We are worried that steam will come out from the thing and bring back through the holes onto the food which is inside. The chashash is very small. And therefore it will be sufficient to have those covers. The holes are very tiny. Not big holes, not many holes. When you put holes, it shouldn't steam up and explode.
What are you worried about coming down?
If I leave exposed the plate
Yeah.
and I'll heat, the ze'ah will go into the walls. So it's like a keli which is not kasher, and it's getting the bliot, what's absorbed and coming back down to your food. The Rosh says this in Ilchot Basar V'Chalav. If you put a pan and you've got on top of it a keli, then the steam goes up and gets nivla, gets balua, and brings down as well. Also the milk becomes asur.
I'm worried if you put this second shelf, you say, to protect it.
A
it's gonna
microwave, it's
cook,
not
no,
practical.
Not in the microwave, in a conventional oven, that it's going to
Yeah.
cook the bottom one properly, uncovered.
Yeah.
Will it still do
Yeah,
it?
I allow it.
No,
In
no,
the
no,
oven,
will it
once
still
you
cook
put
it?
the tray,
Yeah. If I
It's
tell
fine.
my wife that and she says, I'll put this two thing on top, and she says, it's not cooking the food underneath. It'll cook properly.
you're going back to the ovens now.
Yeah, the oven. Yeah.
She's complaining that if you have that thing, it's not accurate. The heat of the oven with a fan
It goes everywhere.
goes everywhere.
I
I
found
don't.
this low.
It won't be as efficient, yeah, but it'll be good. It'll be good enough.
You don't have to cover the fan, Rabbi, if it's a fan.
Hmm?
You don't have to.
Because your elements in the oven, not the
Yeah, that's
grill.
right.
You're not using the grill. The elements in the oven are anywhere hidden.
No.
The elements in the oven are always hidden. What you're seeing are the grill.
Oh, that's the grill.
That's the grill. If you turn the
I
grill,
thought
they'll
that
become
was-
red.
I thought that was the element.
No, the elements are all on the sides, in the inside.
Oh.
The elements are covered usually.
The fan.
Am I right or wrong?
No, the fan, they're inside, yeah.
The fan spreads the heat of the elements which are covered. It's like a slow cooker. How does a slow cooker work? You don't see any elements.
No, but I thought that element in the top was...
That element is
that's
the
only
grill.
the grill?
That's the grill. That's the grill.
You don't have to cover the
So
fan.
check it. I'm not an expert in ovens. Check it.
Wait,
You don't have to cover the fan.
Just turn on and touch it. Sorry?
You don't have to cover the fan.
No, you don't have to cover the fan. What are you worried about? Food went into those holes and now the fan is going to bring those food out?
That's what it does.
No, we're not worried. If food went in, it'll ruin your fan.
It circulates the air from
It circulates the air.
in
Because,
and out.
but not food goes in there and food comes back
The
out.
same steam.
Yeah, steam is dry steam. It won't go. No, it won't come back in. It doesn't know find its way back in into little holes. It's chashashot me'od rechokot. Very far. First was on the side of the oven, and secondly, how much? Same old kebolo kach bolto. It went in, it'll come out again. That blia. The chances are zero. Yeah, so therefore I wouldn't worry about that. Those holes. I know some people make a fuss of those holes. I like the holes in the microwave.
Right,
Now,
can we say, sorry, back to the microwave with the covers. Does that mean we can say then it's good enough for to change between meat and milky? Forget Pesach.
meat and milk is more lenient because you've got a concept of heter bala.
So I've got the same
Yeah.
microwave.
If you've been particular, you want to kasher in between with a steam, with a bowl.
No, I'm just saying, I want to maybe make something meaty in a microwave. I put it with a meaty cover, and then I take it out and put it with a milky cover.
With a meaty cover, and then with the, so rely on always covering the food,
Yes.
and you never leave it exposed.
No, but you said the holes are good enough. They're not.
Yeah, I said if you're particular, always to cover.
Yeah, yeah.
My experience is that you're not particular always to cover the microwave.
But my style will be fine.
Huh? If you always cover your food, then yeah, what do you want to chashash להיות which are minute and to what? No, come back down, you'll be alright. Unless now you'll show me there's a cover on the microwave which got big holes.
You look like
What constitutes a big hole?
holes.
There's a lot of holes.
Yeah.
More on the side then. On the top you don't have many big holes.
No.
Yeah, on the side you've got a lot of holes. A tiny
It's
one.
not going to go around the corner.
Is that where the heat comes out? Those
All right.
Sounds like
Get one with no much holes.
I think top you look is like an
There's nothing-
exchange.
All right, not much holes. Let's go.
There's no element.
Okay.
It's so cheap. I bought a little one.
Now let's go further.
Hops?
What?
Hops?
I spoke of the holes.
You did hops? You talked about the
Extractor.
extractor.
Now the extractor above, there's no rules to this because some people get an extractor which is quite low, some people have a high extractor. Generally extractors, I'll agree with you that by the time the steam gets to the top, it's not yet solid. If you put your hand where the extractors are, is not boiling. However, there's accumulation of fats. It's very hard to clean these extractors. If you're able to clean it properly, then what can I tell you? You've cleaned it. No? Chances are, in mine anyway, I can't clean it.
What's the concern?
The concern is that when you get steam
Fall
going
back
up,
down?
it wets the area and there's residue which falls back down into the pots. El chametz on Pesach is b'mashu.
What crumbs up?
You just don't use it.
Huh?
In our one was got dirt.
Yeah, I'm saying it's got residue. No, I'm talking about the extractor
Yeah, it's got
on top of the cooker. It's very dirty. It's probably one of the most dirtiest. It's one of the most dirtiest things. Yeah. You should know. Not only that, I can tell you what. Look at on top of your cupboards in your kitchen. You will see from cooking that the fatty dust. Can you imagine what goes on in those extractors? How much you clean it, it's hard to clean it. So therefore, I suggest place foil over it. Just stick foil over it. And on Pesach, don't use your extractor. If you're able to get it professionally cleaned with a steam cleaner and change the extractor filters and whatever you're able to clean it.
Foil and then punch holes in it.
What, punch holes?
With the silver
What punch holes?
Small holes in it. It'll be the same issue as the microwave. It'll be the same thing.
All right,
It'll be the same thing, no?
all right. Punch holes in it. Punch holes in it. That'll be fine. What, the residue is going to come through the holes down?
It'll be
No.
the same thing.
No. After you clean it,
If
punch
you
holes.
clean it properly, then it's
Punch holes.
Then you can use it.
Then you'll be able to. I don't think it'll work so well. Little fork holes. So therefore, I suggest just cover it. Yeah, cover the extractors. The sinks. Okay, sinks at worktops. Now worktops, rov tashmishon is really will be sufficient to pour boiling water. If you've got a normal worktop, which is plain, flat, with no cavities, with no scratches, with no holes, that you're able to clean properly, just pour boiling water will be enough. Because you don't use that area more than irui. Maybe once you put boiling hot bread directly on top of it, chances are that you didn't use it directly with chametz, meaning clearly shone in the sun, ela irui. So therefore it will be sufficient to pour on it boiling water. Now I'm not going against the common practice which people have to cover the worktops on Pesach. It probably started this idea from the times where the worktops were not so smooth and we couldn't clean them properly. So we took the safe route and covered the worktops. Continue with that practice. Someone once asked me this question. He does it every year. He covers. He's afraid that if he won't do it and just rely on water, the child will tell him you become less frum. Now the rabbi said, just pour boiling water and it's okay. But every year you cover it like a spaceship. So I said, you must continue. You must continue. Minhag.
Yes, countertop sheets are very good.
Yeah, you get them from Good For You as well. Or,
Do you?
yeah, you can get the rolls and buy by the meter and just cover it.
No, I'm talking about the plastic corrugated things.
Corrugated.
You know what?
Oh, you cut them to size.
Yes,
To
they
bring
come in
some-
sheets of.
And you put it on top of your
Yeah,
worktop.
they fit perfectly.
Okay, very good. You mean cut it to size?
Yeah, you can. Well, you don't have to cut it. It depends if you've got.
So that's a good thing.
Stone worktops.
Huh? Stone also you can kasha. Quartz also you can kasha. Any smooth material you can kasha. Yeah?
What if it's got a crack in it, the shaish, the stone? It's been
Oh.
cracked.
So on that area which you can't clean properly, then you should put a sellotape on it or something that you shouldn't, no chametz. If you try cleaning it. If you're able to clean it, then pour boiling water, you pour boiling water. If you can't clean it, just sellotape it. Fill it in.
There's a general point about kashering anything. If you haven't been the person who's used it all year long, let's say you moved in only a month before Pesach into your new home, so then how do you know what Rav Tashmishah is of the thing that you're kashering? Because Rav Tashmishah was the person who used it before
Well,
you.
we make a survey and see what people use the worktops for. Do they used to put straight directly food on it, which is boiling hot?
No, I'm talking about ovens or pans or
Okay, so you have to go on the
not
safest
pans.
route.
Yeah.
You have to go, you're lechatchila doing here, things you have to go on the safe route. Yeah, you know, it's מחזיקים על איסור מספק. You can't go on them. You don't know who's lived here.
I heard of someone that they moved in.
You have to go by what the generally people
the
use
previous
it.
person said, I never cook in the oven, I only heat things up, which are like in containers, you know, like he buys from the shop in containers. He's never exposed food in the oven. So then that would be Rav Tashmishah, that never food was exposed.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, if food was always closed in the oven. Don't know why people would do that.
There's an undomesticated man.
Okay, very good.
You mentioned about putting hot food directly on the worktop. If you take bread out of the toaster and put it straight on the worktop, would that be considered a problem?
Unless you go with the marshal of davar gush, which might be considered like kli rishon. Yeah, but you can't consider that Rav Tashmishah. Majority of times you use it like that.
Well, Rav Tashmishah, but I know
Once
for
in a
fact it
dish, you
happens.
drop a toast on the worktop. You lechatchila, every time you do a toast, you put it on the
I know
worktop.
someone who does.
Your wife doesn't mind. Sorry,
I know someone who does.
always puts it on the worktop.
I think so.
How clean is the worktop? It's clean.
No, so in that case, then
It's not enough.
do
They-
irui would still be sufficient?
But on Pesach, you're going to make also toast. You're not going to use it directly on top. You can also rely on irui.
You want to heat up the matzah.
Huh?
You want to warm up the matzah.
I'm saying, do you? Are you going to use it like that on Pesach?
It's not enough for you to touch and take out the toaster, then it's not too hot, is it?
Also true.
Take it out and it's hot.
I don't know. I said, you're so hot, you drop it.
Yeah.
I don't know, really. It's
You
strange.
should take it out without getting burned.
Okay.
No.
Again, it's not that hot. You're right. It might be considered irui. It's only the Marashal who says that davar gush retains its heat and we treat it like kli rishon. Chumra of Shabbat, not here. Here we'll be lenient. Right?
The sinks.
Sinks. Now, you'll probably wonder, do sinks really need kashering or not? Huh?
No.
It's always there. It's always
No, don't worry, I don't want to shock you. Of course we're going to kasher things, but let's first understand why we're kashering
Take
this
the
thing.
spaghetti off the hob and you pour it
Yes.
right there.
And spaghetti boiling falls onto the sink. The question is, how are we going? Do we use the king to put? No, wait. Do we use the sink to put food in it? Is it a utensil which we use to cook in it?
No.
Do we place food in his sinks?
Yes.
Do you do?
You waste food. Not
You
the
waste
food.
food.
Not the food
I
you wanna
agree
eat.
with you.
Not the food you want to eat.
I agree with you. The waste food you do.
But it is hot.
Okay.
It is hot when you're straining your pasta. It's boiling hot.
Boiling hot, and you put it there, and presumably it's called irui kli rishon,
Yeah. 100%.
right? The question is, what am I using the sink now for? I'm going to use it what? To put matzah, to put not chametz, to put Pesach food on the sink again?
Not to eat it.
Could be.
Huh? Not to eat usually. So, because of that, it's sufficient to do irui to your sinks. That means maximum we can be concerned is I'll have hot food falling on my sink on Pesach and I'll take it out and it took from the bliot of the sink. So I'll just pour boiling water in the sink. Now how do I keep the boiling water? You take an urn and you pour hot water Some do it with a kettle. You need a bigger quantity of water. It's better if you take an urn and pour water around the sink after you clean the sink properly. Now, the sink, you should know, it's not easy to clean. It's not easy. It's what kind of sink. If you've got stainless steel which comes over this worktop, then it's easier to clean. If you've got one of those where the worktop goes over the sink and you have to start, you scrape underneath, you'll see all the dirt accumulating, which accumulated.
How is that going to fall into the sink and touch your food, which is only waste food anyway?
Yeah, but I'm just saying there's actually residue of chametz in there. So therefore, clean the sink properly, like you know how to clean.
Why do you need boiling water on the sides?
All right, if you're already doing boiling water, do boiling water everywhere.
But you don't
You're
need
pouring. I'm not going to the side, not the side. When you do a kelly, you do it properly. Yes, you don't know what point you're gonna. So therefore, you do it that. And since hot water comes in from there directly from your boiler, so it's irui, and therefore irui will be sufficient to clean it.
And you use one of the
Some take a stone to keep the water hot even after it gets poured, because you take it off the plug, and by the time you go there, it's not boiling. So you want to do irui from a boiling thing, and then you take a stone and you put it on it, so it keeps the water falling like a waterfall. But if you don't know how to use a stone, don't use it, because it's dangerous. Yeah,
What about
it's
steam
dangerous. Literally, I only fell on my leg today.
cleaner? Steam cleaner?
Hmm?
Steam cleaner. If you've got a steam cleaner,
That's irui klirishon.
is that
I don't know. Steam cleaners get very, very hot. The steam ones, yeah.
steam?
The steam cleaners are very hot. Yeah, it's already well.
It's steam.
Steam is hotter.
No, steam is a pressure.
No,
Steam.
Steam.
boiled water.
Boiled water. Boiling.
it's hotter than
Then it's irui.
Yeah.
What's the problem? I don't know this machine. I've heard of these steam machines. I've heard of them, but I've never actually seen I thought the steam works with throwing some kind of steam.
No, it's
So it's
jet,
actually
jet.
jet. That's jet wash. That's for cars.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got confused. So okay, steam would be also a form of doing irui onto the sinks. Clean the sinks properly, clean the taps properly, clean them properly. Because usually, it's not about getting bliot out. It's about getting chametz mamash out. If you don't clean properly around the tap, sometimes you got crumbs here. You got different kind of chametz bepesach bemashu, and therefore clean it properly. That's all.
Aside from cleaning the tap, you have to do uri on the tap or anything? Or
I do irui on the tap.
for what reason? In case someone's doing anything.
Stop. If I'm doing it, I'm pouring on the tap as well. I pour to kasher the tap. No problem if you use the boiling water from the iron onto your food. You don't need to.
There's a high likelihood that in your drain is going to be well over a kazait of chametz. So do you have to pour bleach down the drain?
Wow. The amount of soap in cleaning material goes down.
Yeah, but you don't like the idea of soap.
Again. No, if it's sharui bezeh, it's soaked in it, and it's disgusting. It becomes ma'us le'achilat adam afilu. Forget achilat kelev. Achilat adam is sufficient that there's no bali ra'u bali matzeh. You want to be mahmir, and you're worried about. Some people are worried about these sinks clogging, and then the water coming up, and then you've got residue of chametz inside the pipes. And I buy this chomer you put, chemicals you put to clear your pipe. You want to open your tap pipe? Open your tap. I generally stop using a few days before Pesach the sink for chametz, and by the time there, I presume that there's so much rubbish gone in that there's nothing staying in the pipe.
There's this foam spray, put it in the sink.
In the sink,
Yeah,
it burns everything.
comes up, all the
The orange stuff, no?
there's a white stuff.
It's white stuff.
Yeah. It's a new thing, I don't know what it is, but
Okay.
look into that.
Tavah lecha bracha. However, the more you clean, the better you clean. The more you worry, they clog up and they come up. And what do you have? Food in the sink. What you gonna matzah? You're gonna have food and you put it in your pocket. Anyway, you don't eat from the sink. So the keli might get right.
It might come back up.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Hashem
So
Yisrael,
say
באמת.
the other way around.
Ah.
If you are always makbid on Pesach to put a washing up bowl the whole of Pesach,
Yeah.
then do you bichlal need to kasher the sink?
We don't want people who don't use that. I've got to cover the majority of people. Majority of people use a sink with no plastic bowls and with no chatzitza. Huh? Unless they have one sink, and one sink they usually one they use, one they don't. They don't have two different bowls. But you're right. In such situations, anyway, you're going to get Pesach ones.
Yeah.
So what's the problem? By the way, you can cash a plastic. I'm not saying so cheap, but you can cash a plastic. Let's go into the Haggalah quickly. Let's talk about the Elchot Haggalah. And this is you've got a lot of kelim, a lot of utensils. So first thing, when I'm boiling the urn to kasher my sinks, I think about any kelim which I might need from all year round, and it makes my wife cooking more practical, and I'm not going to spend money buying because I can't afford it. So I'll think about what kelim she might need. She needs more serving spoons, she needs cutlery, she needs sharp knives, which she's used to. Some people cannot cook without the knife they're used to. Yeah, if they use from the grandmother, they use that knife. That's the kind of knife you can't, unless you're going to buy that. Take those knives, clean them properly. Today, there isn't like knives made from two pieces which you can't clean in between. Usually the plastic is, the handles are so sealed so well, just clean it properly and kasher it by Haggalah whilst the water is boiling. Yeah, the custom is straight after you immerse it into boiling water. Shulchan Aruch says it's a good practice, brings the name of Tshuvat Rashi, to put into cold water straight away. However, some claim that once you've taken it out, the water falls off. It's not going to get swallowed back in. So why are you doing that? And also you're doing it before Pesach. Minhag is to put it in cold water straight after the Haggalah. Okay?
It has to be completely immersed, or you can do half and half.
Half and half. Haggalah you can do half and half. It's not like Tvilah. When you do Tvilat Kalim, you can't do half and half. Any chatzitza is already an obstruction for the Tvilah. Haggalah is not in yan of Tuman Tahara. It's getting the bliot out. We don't say Ham Iksato Ham Kulo. We don't say just do half and the heat goes up and get everything down. No. That's only in Basar v'Chalab. It says. Some opinions hold if you mix with a milky spoon, ben yomo, within 24 hours you use this with boiling, and you mix your meaty soup, and you didn't put the whole soup in. Some opinion holds about metal as a conductor. So if you have to do 60 against the whole spoon, even what hasn't gone in, Haggalah is not a problem. You don't rely on Haggalah on that. And you have to put half and then put the other half inside. Okay? Any keli which you can't put it fully immersed into the boiling water. Now this can apply to pots and which you want to use. Frying pans, it's a cheap keli and you should dedicate a frying pan for Pesach. Because frying pans, especially with the non-stick ones, you tend to use without liquid. Because it's non-stick. So you hardly put any oil. It's not like the pans ones, it's to stick, you have to put a lot of oil and all that. So you non-stick. So therefore you cook, it probably need libun. It's not the pans which the Shulchan Aruch spoke about, the Rov Tashmisho. These are non-stick. You fry things with no liquid. And therefore, frying pan, get yourself a new frying pan for Pesach. Yeah? That's in regards of a frying pan. But other kelim which you use for cooking, you can do kashering to it, you can do Haggalah to it. No problem. Yukos Kiddush, which you use on the Chametz table all year round. Really, if you go by Rov Tashmisha, we don't use it in the middle of the meal. We don't drink from it. We don't have crumbs in Yiddish Shtiyah. You do?
I use it.
Okay, if you does come onto the table with crumbs and if you use grape juice all year round, I haven't got a problem. But if you use wine, it's alcohol, and therefore it's a davar charif, and therefore you immerse. It might be a bliot of this, so therefore do Haggalah to Yukos Kiddush. But otherwise, you don't have to do to Yukos Kiddush. If you just use it for grape juice, then you don't have to worry about Yukos Kiddush. Just wash it and clean it properly for Pesach.
But it's no problem when you have the sponge which you clean with, it's used with chametz as well.
Now, the sponge which you use kelim on, because you're using it with soap, yeah, I'm not saying this soap is pogem always, but it's usually in conjunction with soap that you're washing your dishes. So we're not worried about it putting a blia into something else.
Even this hot water.
Okay? Even?
You're washing with hot water.
Yeah, I'm saying even with hot water, because it's got soap as well. So the chametz which will go in will be chametz pagum as well, because it's mixed with the soap. What I said that soap doesn't, I meant something else. Some people claim that a dishwasher you can use for meat and milk without worry. And I once tried this, and I left a whole spaghetti in the dishwasher, and I made a cycle, and I took it out of the drain, and there was an intact spaghetti, washed so nicely and clean, I'm not so sure the dog won't eat it. I'm not so sure. That's what I meant when you got intact. But when you're worried about bliot going back onto the plates, onto the dish, so I'm not so worried because there's also soap going in. And therefore, it doesn't make the kelim asur. That's what I'm saying. But I'm not relying on this meat and milk all after unless you do a kashering process in between. Now, how do you kasher dishwashers? It's not hard. Remember, a dishwasher is not a pot. It's not a pan. You're not cooking food in a dishwasher. What are you doing in a dishwasher? You are washing dishes. That's all you're doing. And therefore, the kashering is much easier. Here we will use the kemolokach polto simply. Literally. No need for agala properly. We will clean our dishwashers properly, clean the drains properly, that there's no residue of chametz in the dishwashers. Clean it properly, let it run on the maximum heat with soap, and then you're able to use it for Pesach. Right?
You mean dishwasher detergent?
Yeah.
The dishwasher tap, exactly.
Yeah.
Could you
So-
say a word about the milk and meat thing in the dishwasher again?
If you clean it properly every time. Meat and milk, I don't like using for both because people, you're day and day you're using meat, milk, meat. You're going to clean the drains. If you got in the drains meat and milk, then I'm not so sure the soap is pogem the actual meat and milk in the sense that you won't be transgressing the isur of bishul, basar, v'chalav, and kli rishon. And that's why, if you're going to clean it properly and run everything between, then yes. Okay? Now that's dishwashers. What are you going to put inside it after that? You're going to put utensils, kelim. You're not putting food inside it. You're going to put kelim to wash. No. What are we worried about? The bliot of the dishwasher will come out and they will go back into the plate. It's not in tam, bar not in tam, bar not in tam. There's 4 tamim before he gets into the food which you're going to cook inside it. Clear? Huh? Chozer v'neor on bliot. Don't say.
No bliot.
On what? You cleaned it. There's no chametz. You cleaned it from any crumbs. You have to clean it properly. It takes time. Clean the dishwasher properly. Make sure there's nothing left in the drains. There's nothing left. Make sure you clean properly. Okay? Any other questions on two different kelim? No questions? Glass. Exciting part. Keli zchuchit. Glass for Pesach. Now, I'm going to first tell you the Ikar Adin, and then I'll tell you the Minhag. This which the Shulchan Aruch says, that glass doesn't absorb, Kli zchuchit enam bola'im, the source is in the Gemara which says that a lev, the heart, when you come to kasher the heart of an animal, and you didn't take the arteries, open them up, then it says it doesn't absorb because it's shia, it's smooth. The concept of a utensil being smooth only works for melicha, for tzliya maybe, because nura mishav shayev. But when you cook something, then we don't apply this rule that the utensil is smooth. This concept of a utensil being smooth, and therefore the smoothness doesn't allow to absorb, that's only when you don't use that utensil for cooking. I.e., a whiskey cup, a beer cup, even though it stays there and it's sharp, that you can say Shia velo bala, Shulchan Aruch. We don't follow the opinion of Shulchan Klecheres. That's according to Ikar Adin. That's the Ikar Halacha. The minhag is that even those which you use for cold chametz, which had sharpness to it, even those we put it into water for 72 hours. Meaning every 24 hours we change the water, but that's minhag. That's a custom. And we keep to that minhag. If you know that's your minhag, if you don't know that's your minhag, then the Ikar Adin is, they'll be sufficient to wash them. But if you used the glass for cooking, i.e. Pyrex, you cooked inside it, we don't apply the rule of Shia velo Bala. This is a clear halacha in Simanayim Bet in Ilchot Isur ve'Heter when it comes to Ilchot Melicha. And I explain myself. And people don't understand what I'm saying. And I didn't hear it, it's not my chidush. Mordechai Eliyahu told me this. He gave a shiur on this. I'll explain to you where the source of the glass is. The Bet Yosef brings Avot de Rabbi Natan that says Kli Zchuchit and Amorim fil Machnisam Likiyum. There is Lev Shia velo Bala. The Gemara says, you know, the heart, at the time of Shchita, the blood concentrates and comes right into the heart and stays there and congeals there. When you do salting of the heart, you want to eat the heart of the animal. You probably wonder, we want to talk about the heart now. You have to cut those arteries before you salt it, because we know when it comes to melicha, if you don't wash the meat before you salt it, the salt will actually make the blood penetrate into the meat. Dam shal gabav. And then you can't extract it with salt anymore. So therefore, before you do melicha, salting of meat, you have to wash the meat. The heart requires more. You have to get rid of that blood which is inside the arteries before you do the melicha. Says the Shulchan Aruch, if you didn't do it, and you salted it with that, with the blood inside, so you think now the salt will make the heart, will absorb some of the blood which was there. The Gemara says, Shia velo Bala. The heart is smooth, and it doesn't absorb, it slips off. Says the Shulchan Aruch, if you cooked the heart without opening, after salting, without opening the arteries, surely we should say the heart is smooth. Says the Shulchan Aruch, becomes asur. And if you had other foods cooked with the heart, you need 60 times the amount of the heart. Because by cooking, it has a much stronger effect of penetrating into whatever you're cooking. So the concept of a utensil being smooth and learning from the heart of melicha is not comparable. It's comparable. I mean, you have to compare it totally. When you cook, you don't say the rule Shia velo Bala. In the time of the Shulchan Aruch, they never had utensils which you were able to cook with. They didn't have this resistance in the glass like they have today, this French invention of having Pyrex. It's a new invention. Today we're able to cook with it, you shouldn't kasher it. By the way, it's not such a costly keli, the Pyrex glass. And therefore you shouldn't use the Pyrex, not for meat and milk, and also not for Pesach, the all year round one. Because you don't apply the rule of Shia velo Bala.
The Ashkenazim allow it?
Ashkenazim are much more stringent. They hold the Kli Zchuchit by Pesach, it needs kashering.
No, he said no.
No. Okay? Because some treat it like cheres glass. That's the machloket. But Yosef, Shulchan Aruch went with opinions which holds, don't hold that it's like cheres. If it's like cheres, then it absorbs, even if you machnisam likiyum, even if you put there, for a few days, you put there, it already absorb. You put sharp stuff, it already absorb. Or even if you use a be'irui. My maximum, the Shulchan Aruch would have had utensils which you pour hot things into it. Irui. So, if you hold like the other opinions, like the Ramah, then they treat it like earthenware kelim. Okay? Briatan min hachol. Okay.
That's my last question.
Yeah.
Going back to the oven, you said the top bit is the problematic bit. You said it's got a grill on top. If you put the grill on, that usually glows.
So the
Isn't
grill
that good
will be
enough?
kosher, but the rest of the ceiling of the oven won't.
And there's no, it's next to it. won't
No,
it?
no. The grill is fine because the grill, if the grill was ever on when you turned on, it usually burned the chametz, which are that's
But
red hot.
It's the top of
But it's the whole surface on top because the grill doesn't come over
Can
here.
you clarify barbecues?
Barbecues need libun. Simple as that. Because you use it on direct food goes on the grills. and it absorbs through heat, not through a liquid. That's a barbecue. Kishmo kenu.
You only use it for meat and vegetable, never bread.
Never you put chametz onto your barbecue. So just clean it and use it.
Having a barbecue anyway, it's going to be kosher.
What?
You're having a barbecue anyway, it's going to be kosher by having another barbecue.
Oh, no, you have to put the coals on top of it
On
to
top of
kasher
the
it.
coals.
If you put chametz on it, you have to kasher it. Libun.
But the fire from the coals.
The fire doesn't reach the if it reach, you're right. If you put it into the coals, the grill, then you're kashering it.
If you turn the grill
You have to
on-
kasher it with fire. Kebolok achpolto. But if it's on top and the grill then the heat is not kebolok achpolto on the top. It's mamash libun you need.
You turn the grills over,
It touches the actual fire, gets red hot, yeah.
doesn't touch it, never did it.
Never mind, it's not okay. You libun, you need that it becomes ready to you actually hit the fire onto the actual surface of the metal. If it hits the fire, that's libun. The fire hits the surface of the grill.
You say as long as you never put any bread on the barbecue, it's okay, even though the meat wasn't necessarily kosher for Pesach. It's nothing to worry about.
No, I could have had rotev, which had chametz.
Marinated, which
Yeah.
has chametz, then it's chametz. But if you just had plain meat, like professionals, like barbecues, which are plain with no marinade, and then
It's not chametz. It's a mixture of chametz.
So the tarovet chametz also needs kashering.
It gets burnt.
מה?
It gets burnt.
What gets burnt? It's נבלע בתוך הזה, מה get burnt? בסדר, נביא תערובת חמץ again.
And if it's burnt, it's on the surface.
בסדר, לכתחילה, you need to kasher it. לכתחילה, you need to kasher the כלי. בלע חמץ או לא בלע חמץ? בלע תערובת חמץ, בלע תערובת חמץ.
No, after 24 hours, it's supposed to come. After 24 hours.
again, נותן טעם לפגם לכתחילה זה אסור.
But if it's not rotev, then can't you do it?
Which rotev? It's marinate is not rotev. Rotev means that the whole intermediate, the meat itself touches the thing with a bit of flavor of that. That's not rotev. That's not an identami. It has to be substantially wet for it to be called that it gets cooked through the liquid. That's kebolokach polto. The meat is touching that. Yeah, but the meat has got marination, marinated, which is directly on the grill. And that dries onto the grill, and that gets nivla on the grill. Science, come on, check it out.